Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
All right, welcome home, everybody. This is Tiffany Cross, Andrew Gillum, and Angela Rye, and you are tuned into this week's MiniPod. Welcome home again. Angela said our welcome home is not enthusiastic enough. So welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home, everybody.
Home.
We mean it.
Andrew's still quiet storm, but it's fine.
mean it. We mean it. I mean it. I don't
Okay.
need to be able to be
Welcome home. This
sincere.
is our home, and this is
That's
your
true,
home. And just like any family, we have disagreements sometimes.
Sure.
And so we thought it was important to share one of those more heated, intense discussions that we had last week with you all. And to know that right after that podcast was over, maybe 10 minutes after, everybody was good. Like we were all back, because that's how it works.
Well, you
with
skipped some
family.
steps, but I'll let you
What
have
do
it.
you? We can say what we want to say about it. And Andrew, do you want me to say the whole thing, or you want me to say we were good?
I'll say this is I knew that in the moment, while we had already had a long day, and then of course we got into the subject of what value each of us puts on what we choose and desire to platform. And that does feel a little personal, because you're now asking me what lens, what vet do I put on what I think we should be talking about on this show. And to the extent that we scrutinize each other's, vetting, it can feel real personal. So I completely got that. But I will tell you this, and I think I said this to Angela or Tiffany, I can't remember who, one of y'all, that what I knew in that moment, although it was very tense and whatnot, was that we were not going to leave New York without resolution, which is not something that I would bet on in many relationships that I know of. Friendships, romantic relationships, or otherwise, where you have confidence that there's enough love and respect in this space that before we leave this place, we will be reconciled. Even if it is, we still disagree, but guess what? It was never my intention to hurt you. And not, I'm really sorry that you were hurt by what I said. Like that backhanded thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, because that's not who we are. That's not who we are at this stage in our lives. And the other thing that I appreciate about who we are and not who we are about this stage in our lives is that I don't think either of us feel like we've got to beast one another. Like we got to one up, and I don't feel like I have anything to prove to either one of you. What I feel like I want to do is to show up as my best self every time. And even in those moments where I can't, I want to be able to count on the fact that y'all know me well enough and love me and care for me enough that you'll have grace in those moments where we can't. And so I know y'all have more to say about this, because you had some after conversation. I just felt like, I know it's heated right now, but you know what? Keep it pushing, because we're not leaving this space without feeling complete.
I love that. I think, I was feeling really defensive, and I was telling Tiff when we walked out of the room, like we were all walking down the stairs quietly. We recorded some other evergreen content that, honestly, y'all, it might end up being trash, because my energy was completely off. I wouldn't even hardly look at Tiff. I was like looking sideways. Andrew feels like he was talking to himself, which doesn't just happen when we mad. Sometimes Andrew be preaching anyway by himself. He'd be like, somebody gonna get it. Hello, lights. But the bottom line is, I literally walked out the room, and I turned around to Tiffany. I was like, you hurt my feelings. And I was in tears. And then she was like, don't cry. You're going to make me cry. And that's it. And I think that part of what happened is, a lot of times in life, people aren't in tune with where they are on their journeys. And so I think I've done a lot of work from a therapy perspective to know, this person was rising up because 6th grade Angela showed up. I was feeling bullied. Nobody was saying anything to bully me, but I was feeling it. And Tiff, being the media strategist she is, she was like, oh my God, I could see that, because you were literally sandwiched between me and Andrew, and we were on the same side and you were in the middle. So you're like squished. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. So there's that. Plus, I'm not sleeping. We're working really hard on Marilyn Mosby's petition. Like, there's so many things happening. I'm waking up at Tiffany hours. And for any of you all that know me, know, like, I'm a night owl. So that means I'm sleeping like 3 or 4 hours right now.
Literally.
So I think I was uniquely tender from that. Just like when you have a little kid, if it's your child, you know, it's like, oh, no, you need to go to bed. It was one of those moments. You sleepy. You're not thinking clearly. You're delirious. And I was feeling tender. And so I thank God for this safe pod space that we've created where I could say, I'm feeling tender. And when Tiff said, you think I said that? How I heard it was very different than her intention, because she started feeling defensive. Like, how could you possibly think I was saying that? And then I was like, why would you talk to me in that tone? And then we were crying. And then Andrew missed all the tears. But I think deep down somewhere, he probably had one single thug tear.
That Denzel tear.
Oh, he will cry with us every now and then. Not the glory tear, too. But I will also just say, I think one of the things that moment did for me, you guys, is it made me connect to what our listeners may have felt when they talked about how we answer questions. And so the question I have today really is, in this space that we created, our pod, our unique little bubble, our safety bubble, what is our obligation to each other and then to our broader audience to hold that safe space, to ensure that people don't feel over attacked, that they don't feel like they're being put on the defensive, that they don't feel like we're trivializing what they say, and certainly that we're not doing that to each other. And then what is our responsibility when somebody may have a trigger that maybe we're not even aware of? Like, how do you navigate that space? I think this is one thing that will help us not only be a better podcast, but better people to be in relationship with, whether it's your church community, your family, your friends, whomever. Like, what is our responsibility collectively and as individuals to create safety?
Sure.
Well, I will give my assessment and answering that question. I think, Angela, you carry a lot, and we're all type A personality, like extreme type A personalities. And it's very few people, being a type A personality is very few people who I'm going to trust that you have it all together. But Angela is definitely one of those people. If Angela's like, I'm taking lead on this, I trust that you have it all together. So my takeaway might be a little different from both of you guys. My takeaway is, just because there are people in your life, in your circle, who are always on top of things, who always have it together, we have to also caution ourselves that we're not doing the superwoman myth on these people, because honestly, the way I thought, I expected this to be a brawl in how we cover, but not a brawl in the way that it was, but that Angela was going to feel really strongly and come back and say, well, let me tell you why you and Andrew are wrong. And I think I did not in that moment hold space for everything Angela was feeling and going through and doing. And so the lesson, I think, as a takeaway is, don't assume because the person in your life that's always juggling everything, is always on top of it, is always that person. Like, we all have a right to have a moment, and Angela, you're always quick to take ownership of things. And I'm like, I don't think it's all on anybody. I think it's in how we all collectively hold space for each other. I'm giving sometimes, Andrew was, saying we needn't be so highbrow or whatever. Like, Andrew said that to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I wanted him to say it on air that day, because I'm like, there are probably people out there who feel that way, I like highlighting our different perspectives and disagreement, because we get to do that here. We didn't get to do that in other spaces because we were like under the umbrella of like Black commentators, but we're not homogenous in our community. And so we get to have these nuanced disagreements in what we cover. I thought it was a really robust conversation, that one. I don't like when things escalate to that level, but the comfort in being friends with people for multiple decades is, this is family, and it's whether we want it to be good or not, we're going to be good, and we communicate spoken and unspoken, and so I wish Andrew had been on his job and had been following me and Angela with some behind the scenes footage.
No.
And getting us hugging in the alley, whatever. But it just, I thought it just highlighted
I knew it was
a
happening.
different lesson. I know, but then you should have been out there on camera with your camera phone.
No, because
this is not Love and Hip Hop, too.
No.
Like our BTS.
And I think we all deal with like these things differently, right? So Angela at a different point may have needed us to lean in or to pull out. But you and I may have a different relationship with conflict or with the way in which conflict is handled. So for instance, if things get too emotional, for a long time for me, if things got really emotional, my first comment was, and Jay is going to like amen this, was, you're not a victim. We both have our grievances here. This is you, this is where I am, but neither of us are victims here. And it was, now that in reflection, I'm thinking, what a harsh, insensitive, and like non-loving way to approach a conflict is to say, like, you're not a victim. That is like the worst place to go with it. And thank God for Angela introducing me to therapy in a way that I had never been before. Really helped me to get outside of it, because the only thing I needed to hear was, how are you feeling? And whether I feel like I did something to necessitate that or not, the truth is that a person who I love and care deeply about reacted to a thing that I did or said in this way, and that isn't what I want to happen. I want you to hear me clearly, but I certainly don't want to level you in the process. Yeah. I don't want you to walk away feeling like you're less intelligent or you have less to contribute or that your voice isn't as important or as valued. And I'll just disclose, Angela and I had a conversation yesterday after our Don Lemon interview, and I was, saying to her that, I've sort of gotten used to, at least in some ways in our podcast, like not really fighting for the space in every conversation. Like if comments are being had or being said, and either I'm not invited directly into it, or the conversation takes place and I've not made a contribution, my default position might be like, okay, I'm not of value at this space and in this time. And the adjustment or the compromise I made with myself is like, okay, just accept that in some spaces and at certain times you won't be of value. And what Angela was pointing out was that may be an incident where you might not feel that way, but to the point that becomes now your conduct, you've negotiated yourself into a space where every week you now feel like you have to just sort of sit with it, be quiet, keep it moving. Time is going. I don't know how to shut up. Whatever the things is that the self-talk that I'm telling myself, now we are completely disrupting the very environment we're trying to create for ourselves. Yeah. The very environment we're trying to create is that I don't have to be curated through the world's lens. That if this conversation takes me away from one about politics and one about the fact that, gosh, I feel, no real worth in this moment. And I don't want to be I have too much respect for myself. I'd like to think that I don't want to be anywhere where my contribution isn't valued, where I'm not making a contribution at all. And to your point, Angela, about where we have to be respectful and where do our listeners show up, they show up all the way through this. I can't tell y'all, if you're on the listening side of this, what it did to Angela and Tiffany when we got some comments about, from some of the listeners who said, I felt like you all disrespected the questioner here. Like you just completely, I'm sitting here with them on the telephone, and they're like, I can't believe that. I can't believe I wasn't aware of that, and this, that, and the third. And they're going back and forth. I'm like, y'all, you want to call them on three-way? Y'all want to FaceTime? I mean, like,
he
what
literally
are we gonna
said
do?
that.
Yeah,
He literally said that.
It's shady.
No, I was saying
he was genuine. That's the scary part. He really wanted to FaceTime these people.
Absolutely was serious. I was like, we have to unburden this, and I'm really sick of this. I can't believe we said that, and I got to go back and look at the video and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, look, what y'all want to do about it? And so just know that it isn't anyone's intention to go that way. And I think in our apology the following week, I mentioned that sometimes we're not even responding directly to what the question is, which is part of our obligation to respond to what the question is, because you posed it and we respect you enough to give you an answer. But we're responding to all of the clouds, the layers of stuff that we've had to dig through all week, and all of everybody else's misimpressions about that thing. And now we feel like, oh, this is the window to correct the rest of the world, not you, the questioner, but the rest of the world on that perspective. And so I have nothing but love and respect for our audience, and that has to mean more than our words, that it has to be manifest in our actions, not just in the way that we experience it, but also the way that you, our listeners, experience it. And that's just a work in progress. But know our heart, please.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because we still want to talk more about how to create safe spaces, not just for us, but for you as well. We'll be right back. And I even like having this conversation and putting it out there for our viewers because I want the audience to feel like they are part of the conversation. And I think what they appreciated about the MiniPod last week is they felt like they were eavesdropping on a private disagreement with all of us. And I think all of us maintain how we feel. I don't think, Angela, you feel any different. I don't think, Andrew, you feel any different. I don't feel any different. And it's like, yeah, we can have these three opposing points of view and still come together as family, as friends, and, spend time with each other and laugh and, nothing changes. And I think that's what the society we're trying to build and go for. In terms of our audience and the things that we platform here and creating a safe space for our viewers and for each other, I just want to make this plea to our audience and say, even when we disagree with you, we love you. I think that I often say this to Angela, and I probably said this to you too, Andrew, like, I think as Black people, we don't have the privilege to dislike each other.
Nobody's disposable.
Right. But there are people who, they're not my favorite people, so among us, I'm like, I don't really rock with him. I don't really rock with her. But out here in this world, if something were happening, then I got to be a part of the army defending that person, And so we feel that way. Even when you give a comment that I feel is a little disrespectful to the WNBA, we still welcome you, brother. We welcome your comment, like you're going to have to get some of this smoke.
I think it was a hoax, but yeah.
Well, either way, I hope it wasn't. I hope he had more respect for us than to be given a hoax, but who knows? Even when we disagree, though, we want you to pull up a seat to this table. We've all come from spaces where we didn't feel welcome. For 24 years, I didn't feel welcome in, mostly white-run newsrooms that constantly dismiss my input and value and opinions. So I don't ever want either of my co-hosts to feel like they don't have value. And I certainly don't want our audience who shows up to us every week, twice a week to hear us, to not feel like they have value. So we thank y'all for rocking with us, for tuning in every week. I thank you, Angela, for inviting me and Andrew to be part of this podcast and build this thing brick by brick with you. I thank you, Andrew, for the times that we have on this podcast. But honestly, my favorite time is when we're not on the podcast and when Andrew and I get one-on-one time. I feel like it's so calming. I'm always telling you some personal drama I have or something,
leave me out.
Only if Angela's off doing something. She on a flight. She doing something else. And I'm all about like, where's a good restaurant? And so Andrew and I'll go eat sometimes. But Angela and I also spend a lot of time too, as the ladies. We have a whole girl group. So I get my alone time with each of them. But with Andrew, I truly value you both personally and professionally. So I love y'all for having the space. And just thank y'all for dealing on the days when I'm giving whatever I'm giving. When I'm giving highbrow to Andrew. Let me tell y'all what Andrew told me.
By the way.
Andrew throws shade. Y'all don't hear it.
Highbrow.
When we were walking in Central Park, basically.
I didn't say bougie ad. I didn't
say you did, but you gave that energy.
He was so,
it sounds like
smooth jazz. When you know how he does, Angela. And he was like, I was a bit elevated at the time. And sometimes when I'm like that, it means I go inward. Okay.
Can you tell me what elevated means?
It means that I had a mood altering substance that sent me on a flight. Okay. And so it's a good, beautiful day. I roll it through Central Park. And Andrew was talking to me and I hear it. But sometimes your thoughts are like, they run away and you're like, no, but wait. And the thought is gone. And Andrew was like, when you get like this, you just have this judgmental look on your face. And I don't care for it.
She's just exuding judgment.
It's just
I just need you to hear what we say.
It's not even any judgment, but I was laughing so hard because he said it was just so funny to me. I'm like,
it's so
see,
proper.
This should be yes.
No,
I don't care for it. I don't care for it.
Just appreciate the fact that in most places I wouldn't have 2 words to say to the other person about how it is they look or what they're giving.
Andrew, you give the craziest cuss outs with no cuss words and big words. Sometimes you make up the words along the way as well.
I can make up some words. You and Jay agree.
But yeah, like
Andrew has his moments where he's had enough. All right, do we feel complete with this conversation?
Well, we didn't read the comment I wanted to read.
Oh, yes, share the comment, please. Are we going to say who it's from?
I believe it's Janice Paris Wright.
Okay.
And it says, I have been listening to your podcast since episode 1. Just so y'all know, we are not going to make a practice of reading these comments. We expect for you to send in videos, but just because it was on point. Since episode 1, I share the podcast a few times. I believe in what you are doing because it is imperative and needed. After listening to your last MiniPod, I resonate with all your viewpoints because they are valid. I must say I lean toward Angela, as I too was blindsided, as I would have never imagined millions on millions of people could ever be scammed by Trump. I am from NYC, and my very arrogance thought people knew he was deplorable in every aspect of being, empty, nothing good, and possibly evil. Keep going and know that your valuable information is appreciated. Keep fighting for the good, and as you know, great things start small sometimes. I love the podcast.
Thank you, sis.
I love that comment.
I love it too.
I love that she shared. Well, sure you love it, Angela.
No, I didn't. I really didn't think like she was like, I agree with her screaming on the podcast. Yeah. She was saying she agreed with like being blindsided by like, did y'all really think you could vote for this? That was broken by that.
I get it. Yeah.
So not that part, but yes, I do appreciate
I get it.
Amen
but
corner.
you know, I appreciate that no matter how we feel or what we say, we're 3 intelligent people with people out there who will reflect back like, yes, you had a good point, or yes, I agree with you, or yes, I agree with all 3 of you all. I think that's what it's for. So I like that you don't want all 3 of us having the same perspective, coming up with the same ideas.
And we won't.
You know? Yeah.
We don't. But the one thing I would love to ask our listeners, if you guys don't mind, is we didn't dive enough into what it looks like to create a safe space. And since we are so lacking in safety in so many places, some people at home don't have safety. Some people at work don't have safety. Some people in their neighborhoods don't have safety. What does it look like?
I love that.
What does it look like to create safety on this podcast for you? What would it look like to be in this bubble with us and to feel like you have a safe place to process your political gripes, to get talking points to take back to your families and to your communities? What does it look like to create safety here?
Do we want that on video or in comments? Or both?
However,
I would love the videos. I love
because I want to play them and see them.
I want the video responses. We have a video on our Instagram page at Native Land Pod where you can see how to submit a video. We will repost that in our stories when this airs, so you all can send in your videos and let us know what safety looks like to you on NLP.
I like that. We love the money that jingles, but we prefer the kind that folds.
Let me find out.
We did a whole Broadway routine in Central Park. We in our movies. We did a whole thing. Anyway, stay tuned for me and Andrew.
He's got some movie lines.
Come on. Coming to America.
We have a whole
classic.
routine. All right.
Welcome home, everybody.
That's a future episode. Welcome home. Thanks for listening, y'all. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tune into our regular episode on Thursday. Thank you guys for giving us safety to even have this platform. We look forward to hearing how we can give you that safety back. Welcome home, y'all. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.